Hey y'all, welcome back to Flat Tire Farm. We're a 40-acre off-grid homestead here in Alaska, and today we are building a sawbuck.
Now, if you found our video, you probably already know what a sawbuck is, but in the event you don't know what a sawbuck is, it is a modified sawhorse for long lumber and logs that's kind of scissor shaped, and it has multiple scissors so that you can set the log or the long piece of lumber in the top part, and it cradles the wood so that it doesn't move around while you're cutting it. So that's what we're building today.
Now, even though it's a beautiful sunny summer day here in Willow, Alaska, we've been thinking about firewood. Now, we've been milling the beetle-killed spruce on our property to turn it into lumber for our barn. And when you cut off the outside of those spruce logs, you're left with this. This is called a flitch. Some people will call it a slab. Now, you saw that small pile behind the mill. Well, this is the big pile. And if I don't hurry up and do something with it, then I'm not going to be able to get into the goat pen that's behind it.
Now, while Mr. Reeve keeps milling, I can cut these flitches into firewood because you can see how shy our woodshed is. And if you didn't know, winter's real long and real cold in Alaska.
Okay, enough yammering. Let's get to it. Let me show you the tools and the materials that we're going to be dealing with today. So we have a circular saw. You could also use a hand saw if you didn't have a circular saw. We have an impact driver or a drill with whatever bit you're going to need that'll fit your screws. A drill bit that will fit whatever bolts you're going to use. Speed square with a pencil, measuring tape, some kind of wrench that again will fit the nuts that you're using. And then we have some bolts. You'll just use some 1/2-inch bolts. We happen to have some 1/2-inch concrete anchors, also called red heads, so that's what we're going to be using. So we'll need 3 bolts, 6 nuts, and 9 washers, regardless of what kind of bolt you get. That's what you need for nuts and washers. And lastly, a good handful of 3-inch deck screws. Now, for the materials that we're going to use, we have these old free 99 2x4s that came as scrap off a job site. We have 4 16-footers. We probably won't use it all, but because it's free 99, it's in kind of rough shape. Some big knot holes, a bunch of cracks, so we'll have to cut around that stuff. All in all, we need a total of 10 4-foot long 2x4s. Okay, I got all 10 boards marked. Now I've cut around this yucky stuff right here. And this big ugly knot on the edge here. Now let's get them all cut. I don't know if you can tell, but this blade is really dull.
Yeah, totally my fault. It's because yesterday I was cutting all the flitches on that goat pile with this saw, and they were not clean, so they had dirt in them and lots of sap, and sorry husband.
It's okay. So let's get this blade changed out, but first, let's get out of the sun. Okay, let's get this nut off. Maybe, oh, this one's not backwards. And the washer. Out with the old. And in with the new. Now we're back in business.
I see you got your helper down there.
I do. She's making it happen. Everybody, this is Carpenter's helper, Daisy. Yeah? Okay, out of the way with you. And stop eating my tools. Next, we're going to take 6 of these 4-foot long 2x6s and we're going to cut a 30-degree angle on one end of them. Now that is the end that's going to be on the ground, so that when it folds out, that end will be fairly flat on the ground. So that's 30 degrees.
Daisy, what are you doing? That's not for eating, girl. Yeah.
All right, y'all, we did a little bit of a set change. We brought the sawhorses in a little bit closer and got them in underneath the shade a little bit better. Now we need to lay out where the pivot point of our little scissor spot's gonna be. So I've got all of these 4-foot pieces that I have the angle cut on the bottom, and the bottom's lined up. That angled end is lined up. Now I'm going to measure and make 2 marks from that bottom end. I'm going to make one at 28 inches and one at 30 inches, and then I'll show you why. Now we're going to transfer these marks to each board. Now I've got both my sets of marks at 28 and 30. Now I'm done with the 28-inch mark, but the 30-inch marks I'm going to transfer down the sides and then mark the exact center of the board on each board. Now that we got everything marked, we're going to take each one of these little center marks and we're going to drill a 1/2-inch diameter hole through each one of these boards. Okay, now we're going to pair these guys up and flip one each over on each pair. Okay, now we're getting these paired off, but we want to flip one of them around so that as we scissor them out, both of the angled ends will be flat on the ground. Now for the nuts and bolts of it. Okay, now for each one of these, we're going to need 1 bolt, 2 nuts, and 3 washers.
Quiet on the set. Yeah, quiet on the set.
Okay, now I'm going to turn these on the side so that you can see better what we're doing here. Before your bolt goes in, you need a washer on the outside of the first board. And because you want them to be able to scissor, you need a washer in between the 2 boards. And finally, you need 1 washer on the outside of the second board.
Okay, we had to stop because Eglantine was trying to eat my pants. Huh, girl? Yeah, are you trying to eat my pants? Yeah. Go swim somewhere else, girl.
And now to finish it off, we want 2 nuts. The reason we want 2 is because rather than tightening this all together so that it won't be able to spin, we want to get this nut snug and then tighten it back against a second nut, locking it in place. Let me show you that one more time without the goose interruption. So once again, washer on the bolt, bolt through the first board. Washer on the bolt, second board on the bolt. Last washer on the second board, and 2 nuts up against the washer. Now I'll do the last one and get right back to you. Now, because we tightened these 2 nuts up against one another and not into the board itself, it will allow it to scissor nice and easily. Okay, we're all set up for our next step here. We have the 3 scissors that we just built, and we have the other 4 2x4s that we already have cut. Now those other 4 2x4s are going to lay across these, and when the scissors come open, that is what prevents them from opening all the way. Now, if y'all remember, we have that second mark that we made at 28 inches. Now we're going to take one of these 2x4s that we already have cut at 4 foot, and we're going to put it up to our 28-inch line. Now we're going to make sure that it's flush on the edges, and then we're going to only screw it to the board that has the mark on it, not both of them, or it won't scissors. So that's our 28-inch line. Hold it to that line and flush to the outside. Now for your center scissor, you want it pretty close to the middle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you still have it screwed right onto that 28-inch line, it's going to line up just perfectly with everything else. But I'm picky, so I'm going to measure it. Now that we've got that cross piece all screwed in, our last step before we flip this whole assembly over is to screw another 2x4 right up underneath it to add a little bit of strength to it. Okay, so that's about it for this side. Now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing. Just grab it this way. Hey y'all, Miss Crystal just asked me a good question. She said, why is it that there's only a mark on one of these boards, even though I saw you mark every single one? Well, if you remember, we lined all the boards up, and then we marked them, and then we flipped every other board over. So that put the mark on the other side. Okay, while we're paused here, there's one more thing that I really need to emphasize. The mark on each of the boards is only on the pointy side. As I lined up, hi Days, as I lined up each board and flushed up the bottom, all the pointy ends were facing up when I marked them. So there's the pointy end, it has a mark. This board does not have the pointy end, and there's no mark because it's on the other side. So when you're at the stage where you're making your marks, remember when you flush up the bottom, the pointy-ended side has to be up. Now we're going to put these 2x4s on this side just like we did on the other side. We're going to flush it up to the end, bring it up to our 28-inch mark, and we're going to put screws only in the boards that have the mark on them. Okay, now just like the first side, we're going to screw this board right up underneath the first one. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if I know what I'm doing or not. Not with the standing part of this operation. Bye-bye.
What? How much do you think that'll hold?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Load it up until it collapses, and it can hold one less pound than that.
Perfect.
Look out, Days. Well, there you have it. Now this sawbuck should make a great spot for Miss Crystal to get all this firewood cut up, and everything in this was leftovers. We used leftover 2x4s, leftover deck screws, and leftover bolts.
I'm excited about this because it provides me a much more stable place to try to get this wood cut up. I can use the chainsaw and feel more safe doing that on something that's more stable than standing on a jumbly wobbly pile of flitches like over by the goat pen. That's why I was using the circular saw before, because, well, it has a guard and maybe I won't chop things off with that. But
all right, y'all, thanks for joining us today on Flat Tire Farm. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit us up in the comments with any questions that you have. Looks like I better go do some supervising.